All right. So my first question for you is, how do you prepare for a group reading, like as opposed to an individual reading? Are there any differences?
Yes, a group reading actually takes more psychic energy. So usually I don't schedule anything else. On the day of a group reading, I might do one reading hours and hours before, but generally I try to do nothing else psychic or mediumship related that day. I try to meditate, open up my energy field, and truth be told, if the group is in the evening, I usually take a nap in the afternoon, even if it's just for 20 minutes, just to sort of recharge. So.
Awesome. Um, do you find that any that messages delivered in a group setting typically offer a different type of comfort for the grieving loved ones?
That's an interesting question. I will say this in a group setting, um, a lot of times the messages will actually apply to more than one person. There's a distinct spirit person coming through for one person, but oftentimes during the message part of that reading, other people will tell me later that it also meant something to them. It may have reminded them of one of their past loved ones, some of the things that were said or shared by the spirit coming through, or they also, for some reason, needed to hear that. That's what people will often say to me. I needed to hear that. That wasn't that, that was her brother coming through, but I needed to hear what he was saying. That is what I actually think is so beautiful in a group reading is that you get the benefit of the reading that you get from your loved one, right? With all the
Right.
details and everything else in the message, but then you get to witness other people's um, healing, laughter, maybe an apology, maybe a validation of some kind, and that we all get to share. And that's kind of one of the special things that happens in a group reading.
Think you touched upon my next question, which was actually about synchronicities. And if you've noticed synchronicities between, given to multiple participants, they apply to multiple participants, but really it's one loved one coming through. So I think you touched upon that, and it could maybe relate to my next question. But I was curious, what is one of your favorite memories from a previous gallery that you did? So maybe it is
Oh, I
a
love this.
synchronicity that stood out to you, but go ahead.
Yes, yes. I love that question. So I remember I was doing an in-person group reading in someone's home. Everyone was sitting around like the living room.
Yes.
And there was a spirit coming through, and it was a male. He showed me that he died too soon, so to speak, middle aged, before he got to be an elderly man. That I can't remember exactly. I think he had a gallbladder issue, and then he died of pancreatic cancer, and that his name started with a J. And two people raised their hand, and all of those details fit for both people. I mean, the kind of death, right? The kind of cancer, all of it. And the challenge for the medium, there's only one spirit, right? Coming, so to go back to spirit and say, you got to give me something else. Well, then they say, well, I get the name Jim. So I'd already seen the J, and I say, well, his name was Jim. Does that narrow it down? Nope. They both had relatives passed over. So then I go back. I'm like, well, show me something else. Well, then he showed me a briefcase, and I heard accountant, and I said, oh, he's an accountant. They both these Jims worked in accounting, right? So I don't remember what the deciding piece was. I had to keep going back to the spirit saying, give me something else that will only apply to you. And we finally got it. I think I don't honestly I don't remember what it was, but it
Yeah.
was that's what I love about these readings is they can be that specific, right? You know, they'll even tell me maybe the words they said, the last conversation they had with you before they passed, right? Or something you said right after they passed, things like that. So it was something like that that finally the second person put her hand down. She was like, I can't take. So, I don't know. Now I can't even remember your question, but there is a fun example of what can happen in group reading and how we narrow it down and narrow it down till we really know who we've got for whom.
Yeah. No, I think that nailed it on the head. It was about your favorite memory.
Yeah.
And then since we were talking about synchronicities, I'm like, maybe this applies, and it totally did. So my last question for you is, do you have any comforting words or any like message you'd want to give to someone who's like on the fence about doing a gallery reading just because it's so it takes away potentially the intimacy of the message? Do you have any like message that you'd want to give those people who are on the fence about signing up for
Yeah,
your gallery?
that's another great question. I would say one of the things, and I think I said this before too, is you get to experience this with other people. I do notice that private readings can be very intimate, a lot of details, private type things can, be shared between your loved one and you through the medium during a private reading. There is an intelligence, and it's so beautiful in a group reading. Say it's a suicide. The way the spirit will give me the information protects their loved one who's in front of a group of people, right? And so I noticed that although some of the details aren't as intimate, they are very group appropriate that will come through. And that's something I highly appreciate as the medium, and I do notice that there's a protection in the details and in the messages that come through within a group setting. So if somebody is maybe too nervous to have a one-on-one private reading for the first time, a great thing to do is come in and observe in a group setting, and then be assured that if you have any kind of delicate details around your loved one or the situation or how they passed or anything like that, that will be protected and come through in a kind of a very special way for you in a group setting that won't like hurt your privacy at all.
Yeah. I think you brought up a lot of really interesting points that made me think of a question I didn't prepare. I know you have a gallery reading on August 14th coming up, and I was curious about how you would want to tell people who are participating in that gallery to prepare.
I love this. Okay, so just as I told you earlier how I prepare my energy, it is really very helpful for people to know a few things before they join the gallery. Be in a quiet space, turn off your phone, right? Be where there aren't going to be distractions. It's great if you can just get to your computer maybe a couple of minutes ahead of time. Send your thoughts out, okay, for your past loved ones. And you can literally mentally invite them to join the gallery. Okay. So that just puts that little bit of intention out from you. Maybe think of a memory that you share with that loved one that you're hoping to hear from, and bring that into the reading with you in your heart. A lot of times that will actually be what they share with me, then
Yeah.
as an evidential detail. The other thing I would say is best as you can release any expectation. Spirit always gives us what we need, maybe not always what we want, you know, but what we need, and the people that need to say something to us or that we need to hear from is what will happen in a mediumship reading. So kind of having an open heart, open mind, putting out your thoughts to your loved ones, being in a calm, quiet space. I would also always say it can be a little overwhelming if you get singled out, or when you do in a group reading, especially if it's, say, the first time and the details are so accurate. It's great to have something to write with, paper and pen, because you might want to take notes. Very often you will get given messages for other people. Like say your mother's coming through and she might have a message for your sister, right? Besides
Wow,
just
yeah.
it's great to jot that down. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay,
Open heart,
awesome.
open mind, release your expectations. And mostly, I always say, let's play, let's have fun, let's see what happens. We kind of open up that sacred space, and it's usually pretty cool what happens.